Welcome to the Health Fix podcast, where health junkies get their weekly fix of tips, tools, and techniques to have limitless energy, sharp minds, and fit physiques for life. Hey, health junkies. On this episode of the Health Fix podcast, I'm interviewing Brad Williams. He's a fitness guru. He's a gym owner in Huntington Beach, California, and he's a fitness podcaster. He is the host of the show Over 40 Fitness Hacks, and it's really all about what to do when you get over 40 as a woman or a man, figuring out what in the world you can do to hack your fitness. But also, he's a load of fun and great to chat with, and we have a ton of fun on this podcast because we have a lot in common. We're both over 40, and what the heck, we have a lot of fun sharing some of our tips and just stories from in the trenches. So jump on into this podcast. You're going to have a fun time. You're going to laugh a bit. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to Brad Williams. Hey, health junkies. I have Brad Williams on, and he and I have a lot in common. So this is going to be a fun podcast because we are going to be talking about gym stuff. We're going to be talking about fitness and really the whole concept of turning 40-ish. Let's put it that way, because I started to notice my body go down a little bit sooner than that. And here we are. So Brad, welcome to the Health Fix podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
So as we were talking about when we first started chatting, there's this concept of gym and fitness kind of change since COVID started. And you know, really, it's just an evolution, another evolution in the fitness realm of things. And I think for some folks who like, I think most folks, let's put it this way, I'm not kidding, they want to hear your story, right? They want to know, like, how did Brad get into fitness? And
oh yeah.
And where have you come, you know, from to where you headed, all that kind of stuff. We'll get into that. But tell us the story about how did you arrive at becoming a coach? How did you arrive at really getting into fitness? What did you play sports? What was it?
Yeah, so just like you said, kind of grew up with sports. I played soccer all my life, kindergarten all the way through the end of high school. Always into working out and a gym rat. My dad was a medical doctor.
Oh.
Mom was a nurse. So just always had that kind of healthy lifestyle growing up. And then just kind of fast forward, ended up at Long Beach State and just kind of getting an overall business administration degree because I always wanted to own my own business, didn't know what I wanted to do. And through various jobs and everything, ended up personal training. And then I said, wow, my brother and I just said, you know what, we want to open our business. We like doing this. Let's just go for it. So opened up my first spot in Huntington Beach, Orange County, California. And through the next 12 years of gym ownership and moving locations and, you know, just battling how hard it is working with the cities, how hard it is even doing business in California. And then Orange County seems to be a center for, you know, the fitness population. So there's just a million yoga, Pilates, boot camp gyms, private gyms like mine, and then chain gyms. It's just been a roller coaster ride. So kind of towards the last 3 years, I had up to 3 gyms with like over 60 personal trainers, and it's just one by one. It was just, you know, we were closing them. They weren't as profitable, and started focusing down on just one. And then, you know, some law changes happened the way I did my business with renting out space to trainers. That kind of stung. And then, of course, COVID kind of was icing on the cake. But, you know, still have one gym left. And then a lot of us trainers and gym owner myself, you know, went to the online training world, you know, kind of right at the beginning of COVID and caught on real fast. So now I'm kind of more, I started my podcast as well. So now I'm kind of more into the online scalable feature of getting your message out there. Versus the brick and mortar where you're just competing and you're only working with, like, you know, a mile around your gym. So
Right. You know, it's a tough gig out there. And I mean, I've been to Huntington Beach, love it. But yeah, I have noticed like there on every corner there's something. And I can imagine since COVID, things have changed a little bit there with the scenery. But of course, you know, all business aside, folks are wanting to kind of listen in and hear kind of what they can gain from us. Because of course, in my intro, I told them that, you know, you're all about over 40 fitness hacks. And it's a whole different ball game from when you're like in your 20s to when you reach 40, when you approach a workout. And I like to hear personal experience from folks because I think a lot of us out there who are looking for online trainers, we're looking for online support, want someone that gets us. So
Yeah.
give us the breakdown. What happened, or how did your trajectory go? You're 20, you're probably able to eat a pizza and knock that weight off pretty quick the next day. And you don't really stretch, those kind of things. I mean, at least I'm calling myself out. What did you find when you turned 40 changed for you? What were like the big things that happened?
Yeah, well, so besides, being in my late 20s when I started doing the training, you're in your 20s. Not only that, I'm a personal trainer. That's all I do is live in the gym. So I had everything going for me. And then plus, I have to live the life of, being pretty healthy. But like you said, I could eat a whole pizza. I could party on the weekends and still be single digit body fat. But it's funny because over the years, of training clients I've always trained the kind of the over 40, almost kind of over 50 crowd. That's just kind of my niche. We did semi-private training. And that's kind of the type of clients in Huntington Beach that would come to us. And just over the years of getting closer to 40, and like you said, like even before 40, having my first couple rolled ankles and issues playing sports, and you're starting to see a little weight gain that's not there. So push a little harder, do a little more cardio. And thus, kind of as soon as 40 hit, I'm like, oh my God, this is just so terrible. They were all right. All my clients were right. This is so much harder. I shouldn't have been yelling at them. That's so bad. you know, and I think a big part of it, COVID really showed us too. During COVID, we're all stuck at home, and me being the personal trainer and training online clients, but I was doing it myself. I'd go for my little run. I would do my little workout. Obviously, it's a little more toned down than if I had my gym, but the rest of the time I was sitting down. So then I'd see how important just my movement was from going gym to gym to gym when I had all three gyms, and just how much hustling I'd be doing throughout the day, how much steps mattered. And all of a sudden weight started packing on, and then you eat cleaner, but you're just sitting there by your fridge, and what else is there to do each day too? So we'd have friends over and throw barbecue parties and stuff. So, and once that mess was all over, we're back in the gyms, and I'd already been doing my podcast, and really found a passion for helping the over 40 crowd. And I kind of just, my whole shtick is I'm more of a lifestyle trainer than a militant personal trainer. I understand that my clients have their social life for, whatever they like to partake in. I'm not trying to change it. I might try to tweak it a little bit. But here are all my like little hacks I've discovered because I've been experiencing it. And just to get someone just a little bit more leaner, toner, more functionally fit, especially since that matters more as we age anyway. So that's kind of my philosophy and my passion. And
Okay. I mean, it's a big deal. As you get older, different things will happen. And one of the things we were talking about as weight goes on, a lot of us start to go, okay, what do we do? And you had mentioned, like, do I do more, do more cardio? That's kind of our first thing. We've all been taught that. That's an option. And then if that doesn't work, then the next thing, at least for ladies, is we just stop eating, because that's a good idea. And then after that, we go, all right, hands up in the air. What fad diet or what kind of thing are we going after? And one of the trends that I know that you support, and something that I think is more than just a trend, it's got a lot of good backing, is fasting. So tell us kind of what you found with your clients, what you found with yourself, seem to be working in your realm for fasting.
Yeah. So kind of when I talk to clients too about dieting, there's no one diet that fits all. I'm more what works for you that can stay long term and you feel good on it. That's the diet for you. So we kind of try to figure that out. My hope is that they'll do some type of fasting, because I've, like I said, discovered that the over 40 crowd, oh my God, 80, whatever percentage you say, 80% of, losing weight is diet. And that's true, plus or minus a few percentages. So if you can get the client to, change the diet a little bit, or just add some intermittent fasting or longer fasting, like we were talking before the show, it's just game changer, for the least amount of effort you got to put in, versus, weight training would be number two on getting better results. But as we age and over 40, we got to worry about our joints and how much we're beating up our bodies. It's better to do more efficient and less workouts, more efficient and less running, and try to focus a little more on the dieting. So an easy one is just intermittent fasting. You probably heard it. You can Google it. It's just crunching down your eating time window. Hopefully you're counting your calories or close enough. You don't have to make it a daily habit. but just pushing those calories into a 12-hour time window, and then make it a 10-hour time window, then 8. Usually for guys, you go down to 6. Check with your healthcare professional about. For women, they got to watch out with some hormonal balance, but whatever you feel comfortable with. And I'm telling you, just adding that to your little program, you'll just start seeing immense change in such a short time too. And then I don't know if you promote that with your clients, Dr. Jannine.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes it depends kind of where we're at, right? Some people, if they're strong, they have energy, but they're just like, man, I just keep gaining weight. Like, what is going on here? I will have people do a whole 24-hour, sometimes even up to 36, hours, or even 72, if we really need to just get the system to reset itself. Or the other kind of game plan I go for is we'll stop eating. We'll kind of do like a 10 to 6 window or a 12 to 8 kind of window, and see how that goes. I mean, anything to let the metabolic system catch up. I'm sure you found the same kind of thing, just letting the
Yeah.
system catch up.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I started dabbling in more of the longer fasting. That's also something. Check to make sure you're okay with that.
Yeah.
And then also ease into it. Don't just go for that 72-hour fast. I worked my way up to a 12-hour or a 24-hour, then a 36-hour, and I just did one a couple weeks ago, 48 hours. And at that time I'd done long fasting for a few weeks in a row, and then I kind of paced it like once a month. And the 48-hour one was actually one of the easiest ones to do. It's like you have to force yourself to start eating again to rev up that engine, and then after you do that, you can't stop. But but I just learning about it, just the autophagy that happens of clearing out your system. I did a 4-month checkup with my doctor. We did blood work. He couldn't believe, since I started doing that, what happened. Like, I'm on the keto diet. I don't know how much you promote that or not, but it works for me, and I watch it and I do clean. But your cholesterol does elevate, but as long as you're healthy, your good cholesterol goes up with it. That's kind of the caveat, that it's you're doing pretty decent. But even with that, 20% drop in 4 months. My doctor had never seen anything like it. And then all my liver enzymes were even better than they were before. So I'm just like, oh man, I got to keep practicing this. So I've been working on that, and just the amount of having fun a little bit on the weekends. And my thing now is, if you had a little bit too much fun, New Year's Eve parties, that kind of stuff, then okay, you got to pay the price. So on Monday I start my 48-hour fast,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been working for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think let's put it this way. A lot of people in the health industry have been like, so I don't know what it is. I think it has to do with working on the whole concept of eating disorders and not trying to offend anyone with the fasting, and just, saying, oh, we're going to get in a bad pattern if we binge and then we take a fast afterwards. But the reality is if you know what you're up for, and it's not, if you have an eating disorder, legitimately, fasting probably not your thing. But
Yeah.
you know that you're going to have your birthday, right? I mean, I do this birthday, New Year's, if that's the case, or any time that, I go out with my friends, and I'm having, like, well, I live in Wisconsin now, so deep fried cheese curds. You're going to make sure that the next day is a very light day of eating, and maybe some more movement, things of that nature. But I think that is an absolutely perfect hack for all of us who are getting older. I mean, it's if we look at the foundation of it, and that's kind of the basis of fasting. We're letting the system catch back up, let it detox off the cheese curds, and if you had a couple beers or margaritas or whatever it may be, and you move on. I bet you've probably found this, Brad. Like, your clients probably are like, I want to have some fun here. I don't want to eat, perfect and never drink alcohol ever again. I mean, some people are down with it, but I would guess the majority of people you work with do like to have some fun in some aspects. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I, my culture, where I'm at in Huntington Beach. It's just, there's so much fun stuff to do, and all that. So it's just, all my clients are all coming with the same issues. We refuse to stop doing what we're doing because we like to party or go out to eat a lot, or whatever their thing is. And then my thing is like, okay, I live in the same city, I do the same thing. So it's not a real hard sell for me to get them to add that, versus you need to come in 4 to 5 times a week in the gym, or do homework at home, which I know they're not going to do. Buy a million supplements, which I don't really like taking a lot of supplements anyway. So it's just a simple little thing I can get them. And my thing is, working with clients is, don't change too much. Get them used to the workouts of working with me first, and then make little tiny tweaks. And I've found that, that'll hold and stay longer than trying to do a whole program, which is what most people want. They're like, I'll do anything. I'll do everything all at the same time. No. It just doesn't work out that well.
Oh, I laugh only because I've been there. I mean,
Yeah,
myself,
myself
but
too.
right. I'm doing all the things and then like I get like three of them and I'm beating myself up for days. Or I just give up, right? You just tackle on too much. And I think we also need to be thinking about realistic, right? Realistic change and especially as we're getting over 40, we tend to be set in our ways in certain things and there's things that we like. So it's like why can't we find a way to work around certain aspects of our life, from like you were mentioning going out to dinner. I think for a lot of people that is something that is enjoyable and should be done. I mean, I do it too, of course. I think a lot of people think that us folks in the fitness and natural medicine industry never do any of these things. So I always like to highlight that happens.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about some of your hacks for aches and pains, because this is another big area that I see, especially with like back pain. You mentioned rolling an ankle. Tell us a little bit like what are some of your things you're recommending for folks? I mean, you start with whatever you want, but let's break
Yeah.
down some.
So I usually, all my clients, whether they're 20 all the way to 70, part of my program when I put them through is real focused on like functional fitness and then balance, especially with my older clientele, because, slip, trips, and falls is the game changer. You get knocked out, it's months and months and months of coming back to the game. And it gets that much harder the older you get to build that muscle back up. God, it's so hard to keep the muscle on. It's just not fair, how our
Yeah.
bodies are designed. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we incorporate, whatever we kind of build the program, whatever the client's looking. Some are still wanting to play sports, or some don't like lifting too much. They like more of the high intensity. So we'll cater to all of that, but incorporating balance in all of it. So just simple stuff like, standing on one leg, but it doesn't stop there, holding on to something safe and just holding there for a couple seconds. Make it a little harder. You drop to maybe like a little mini squat, and then you start doing stuff where you like turn your head each way, and for time always balance both sides, and then closing your eyes. That's a huge one. Imagine trying to do all that. Close your eyes for just 5 seconds. You're going to be all over the place, and you can get better at that. And then for some people who can go to the next stages, we put them on like you probably know what Bosus are and balance discs. You can get those off Amazon. They're super cheap. Just to put a little extra in balance on your foot, and it could be on one foot or both feet, and you just do a lunge on it, do a squat on it, do the same thing I said, try to turn and look, keep your eyes closed. And then for the people who are more athletic or more into sports or can do it, it's doing balance in motion. So imagine doing kind of like a walking lunge and then turning and twisting your entire body and coming back to your athletic stance, which is both feet straight on the ground, knees bent, and then taking another step, doing the same motion. And we can have all sorts of fun where we give people bands or throw medicine balls at them. It's kind of a program that's like limitless. We don't, I haven't trained any NFL athletes or MMA athletes myself, but, high school level or college level for sure. So we can do some fun stuff, but you always got to start at the basics and work your way up. And those kind of things are what help keep your balance and, avoid those slips, trips, and falls. And not only that, but just your peripherals. All this type of training works on your peripherals as well, because you have to when you're doing those kind of motion changes. And that's what catches you, from falling off a step or down the stairs or missing a handrail and that kind of stuff. So we really promote that, all ages at our gym.
I think that's huge that you mentioned that with the peripheral, because that is something that I have not seen a lot of done in the regular realm of training. Just going in a certain, let's put it this way, I have a lot of experience with powerlifting kind of gyms, and that a lot of times we're not getting that kind of motion. I love watching functional folks, especially with those. Do you have those lights? Did you ever use those light things that you hit and you can like
Yeah,
watch the lights from different sides? Do you have those?
I was going to mention that. Our one of my clients is a eye doctor, and he brought that in. He wanted me to train, and he let me use it for other clients too. Since I've lost them and lost all the light equipment, but we do other methods. But yeah, you can sit there and do the light changes and hit these buttons. Not only that, but then start going on the stuff I just said, where you're on one leg or you're on a Bosu, and you got it quickly as you can without moving your head, or sometimes you're allowed to move your head. Hit those lights and start peripheral training. It's he wanted to have me train more like the athletes and baseball players, but that kind of wasn't our clientele. but still that kind of training still benefits everybody. Since then we started using like a little mini lacrosse ball or even a lighter ball, and then we'll have them in those stages of whatever balance form they're in, and then we'll throw a ball at any given direction, and they have to catch it while they're doing all that stuff. So same kind of the cheaper way of getting that expensive light setup, but I mean it all works, and it's like you can progress and get better at all these things, and they're all trackable, which is the best thing.
Right, right. Well, in real life, with someone throwing a ball, I mean, your grandkid or your own kid could whip a ball at you at any given time, and you might be at the top of the stair, and it's you can relate it to real life situations. No, I love this stuff. And if folks are listening, if you guys go back to some of my old Instagram stuff, I'll be on something bouncing a ball. My dogs are chasing the balls. It's chaos, but it's fun. And I like this kind of approach because these are the things that help the neurological wiring that unfortunately, as we get older, they need some cobwebs dusted off up there.
Yeah.
In terms of things. Oh, that's so cool. I like that. I like that you're incorporating that. Now, what have you found for folks that are a little bit more into athletics, right? Maybe they're biking, maybe they're hiking, maybe they're even surfing, because I'm imagining Huntington Beach and you got some folks who are over 40 who are definitely surfing. Do you ever do any simulations where they're working on their own sport? Do you guys do anything like that? Or do you have any hacks for folks who are like, I really want to be outside for my stuff, which I can imagine all the balance stuff's really good. What about sports specific? I could talk stuff. Specific. Yeah.
So for like the surfers, we have them coming into the gym, not necessarily outside, but we work on all that balance stuff. And we actually, for the more advanced people, I've got an endo board. I don't know if you remember that thing, but it's basically like a surf simulator board. Yeah.
Yes.
It's on just a tube with a long board on that, and you got to be very careful on that thing. We've had people almost break their arms and shoulders on their own, so one of us trainers has to be there.
Right.
But you can do some crazy stuff on there and have them go out there, start surfing, and that's what keeps coming back. They're like, I need this, because I had one client who was probably 50 and he hadn't surfed in 10 years. Now he's getting all back in and going on these trips, and he quickly realized, I mean, getting up was the problem. Once he's up, he still had the mobility and all that. So that's what we worked on. So that was a real cool one, and I got a couple surfer clients from that, and did little groups and stuff like that. And just like hikers and that kind of stuff, we work on leg strength, a lot of plyometrics, and then also just rucking. We get them. I have all these different weight vests, all the way from 6 pounds all the way to 60 pounds. I got a monster to 60 pounds, and we'll put them outside, put them on the treadmill, and then we also have a sled. A couple different types of sleds that we can all do some crazy stuff with that. It's, we got terrible stuff for everybody. One of my favorites is I started getting a lot of firefighters. And so they'd start coming in, and they wanted to get trained. Not only, they always give me like a month or less to get them ready, and they hadn't been doing anything. I'm like, oh my God, all right, we're going to have to go aggressive like 5 or 6 days a week. And then prior to your test, we got to give you like 3 days of recovery. But they'd show me on YouTube what the course looked like, and I would create the entire course in my eyes as a trainer of what you would need to do to pass each thing, and I would time them. And then we kind of made a test out of it, and throughout the next 3 weeks, I would just kill them in this thing. And it's just, doing like body drags and sled pushes, and I had a rope pull machine where it was a cardio machine that you could pull this rope, and it was on a loop, and you could add resistance to it. So I'd have them on there, do single arms, just everything. And every one of my firefighters that I put through there was in the top 5%.
Nice.
It's funny because one of my trainers that was just renting space, he actually wanted to become a firefighter. He took the test and he failed his first time. So we're like, how is a personal trainer failing? But it made me feel good about, my techniques.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, firefighter training stuff is tough. And especially if, they give you less than a month. And then on top of that, I don't know if you've ever had the ones who want to do the skyscraper climbs with all of their gear. And then they want
never had those, but
oh man, that's a whole nother entertaining training round. But yeah, I think attest right to specific training. And I wanted folks to hear that, obviously, because not everyone's going to be a firefighter. Not everyone's going to want to do body drags and, you know, different crazy things. But my whole mission in life is to keep folks in their sports that they love until the day they die. I mean, that's how I see myself. That's how I want, you know, folks who are up for that kind of life, and knowing that they can do it. So you had mentioned this guy was coming back to surfing, and you kind of helped him to work with that. Give us some examples. Do you have any other examples of folks that you were bringing back to certain sports? Like you were mentioning rocking, you were mentioning hiking, anything else you can think of specifically for folks so that they could just hear that if you haven't been in it for a while, you still can get it back.
Yeah. I think I have a couple more, but just kind of overall, everyone across the board, athletes or people coming back to, you know, besides that balance training that we were talking about, I do a lot of ladder work too. If you've ever seen ladders, like football players or sports people will go in and out of these ladders. It's like 10 rings. You can get that super cheap too. And just YouTube ladder drills. All of them are beneficial. It helps with coordination, your peripherals, like once again, but being on your tippy toes, the balls of your feet is so good for like ankle strength. And that's the one thing that if you're not watching in your later years and you're trying to go back to a sport, oh man, you can roll an ankle so bad. You know, I did it myself playing football because I got a little lazy, wasn't training that way, and just thought I could go right back into it, and got one of the nastiest rolled ankles I've ever done. And I'm the one preaching all this stuff. So you definitely have to practice before you play in the over 40 crowd. And, you know, also doing like some plyometrics where you're jumping on boxes or jumping on like with one leg. For some people can't do that. That's okay. So we'll go back to the balance training. But some of the other fun athletes coming back in are like rock climbers. That's a different, interesting sport.
Yeah.
As a 200-pound man, myself and another trainer we went in there just to kind of feel it out, and we try to use brute strength to climb the wall, and we did. But you are gassed so fast, and it's so inefficient. First of all, it's inefficient being 200 pounds and doing that sport, but you still can. So you learn the techniques and everything, but it's all about grip strength and grip endurance. So then we just start playing with that in the gym. So we do like farmer walks. We've got grip strength grippers that you can play with in all different, you know, from easy like a lacrosse ball or a squeezy ball, all the way to we bought some strongman iron grips that are just like, you know, you got to throw like 50 pounds of force to clench this thing. We got it all. So not only you got to build the strength, but you got to build the blood vessels in there and everything, and build your endurance in there to be able to do it for a long time. Because these, you know, rock climbers are climbing for a while, and you need to make sure that you're not going to fall.
Yeah. No,
So,
having, well, a former, I should say, because since I live in Wisconsin, we don't have anything close by. But when I lived in Washington State, it was like every day I was rock climbing. And yeah, it's a whole nother ball game for things like that. And what it got me to thinking about as you were mentioning it is grip strength is so much related to just life in general, and a lot of our ability to grab onto something, hold it if we need to, or pull ourselves out of something. I mean, I'm thinking survival stuff, right?
yeah.
I'm sure.
And that's a big thing is being able to do a pull-up, at least one pull-up to pull yourself out of something. That's huge and hard to do.
Yeah, pull-ups. That's another thing. I think a lot of people have overlooked that and saying like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. There's no way. Do you do pull-up programs with folks? Is that something that you've worked with over time?
Oh yeah. And you know, people will come in and the first thing you want to do is go aggressively start doing pull-ups with their own body weight. And you know, being over 40, I've had so many, you know, aches and pains from tennis elbow and pulling ligaments. It's, you know, you got to warm up and you got to get to that point too. So it's better starting with like the lat pull or even bands or cables to really start aggressively getting stronger at that. And it is trainable. You can get up to your own body weight, no problem. And then using like a scissors, like we put long bands around the lat pull machine, or not the lat pull, the pull-up bar.
Okay.
That way they can put a foot in and be in a straight vertical position, and then do the pull-ups where we can assist them to whatever we need. Then we'll start using lighter and lighter and lighter bands, and eventually no bands. And just a trainable thing. Never had a person or even a female that wanted to do it that couldn't do it. They wanted to put the work into it.
There you go. There you go. Ladies, listen to that, because I think it is important to even be able to just do one should you need to pull yourself out of a situation. And at this point, I don't have any great stories of someone that's miraculously saved themselves yet, but you can never not be enough prepared. That's kind of where I look at it in terms of survival and things of that nature. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at upper body strength. I'm looking at lower body strength, at total body strength. One of the big things that a lot of people, we've kind of talked about balance. We talked about agility, all these things. One of the things a lot of people will tend to kind of debate on as we get older, and I want to kind of hear what you're up to, is core stability. Because a lot of people think, okay, I got to keep doing not my push-ups, sorry, the crunches and things of that nature. And I feel like crunches aren't so great as we get older, depending on how we do them. So what's your hack for core work?
Yeah, so definitely with core work, and as we get older, doing like this traditional, crunches and sit-ups and all that kind of stuff start not being so great for you. Even younger people too. Us trainers and physical therapists and chiros all sit there and fight over everything. What I've learned in my 13 years, it's okay to do those things, but in moderation. The worst thing to do is to see a person that only does sit-ups or only does crunches every day. Oh, it's just such a toll on the spine, to sit there and bend like that for so many things without doing any other types of positions or giving your body a break. Same thing with just any type of exercise for your body anywhere. You can't just do a bench press bar for your chest. You can't just do back squats and that's all you do for squats. You got to change it up because, different parts of your body support that movement, and you need to give the other movement a break every now and then. So for core, obviously planks and hollows, active hollows, we call them, which is like a reverse plank where you're on your back, legs and hands up and your head up slightly and hold that position. Those are really great. Side planks are great. But then, it is okay to start doing some easy crunches. We just have to make sure people aren't, bending their head chin down. We want them staring straight up to give their spine a better position. And sit-ups probably aren't just the greatest just in general. It's better just to do either crunches and some knee pops, we call them, where you bring your knees to your chest and let your lower back or your glutes come off the ground a little bit to start working your lower abs. But just everything in moderation. Don't overdo the movement. Shorter movements and slower are better, and they'll burn more, so you'll get more out of it. But I try to do a lot of stuff in plank and side plank form first, and then I'll throw in a couple extra things just to get a little extra movement in there.
I think that's huge. I'm glad you mentioned the neck thing. My husband and I are watching Fail Army on TV. I don't know.
Oh yeah. We keep that playing on our gym 24/7. It's like, besides that and Baywatch, it's the most watched shows and requested in our gym.
Oh my God. And so you can point out, like, don't do that nicely for folks. But those of you guys who are listening, Fail Army is literally, they have all kinds of goofy things, but the gym scenes are pretty much the ones where I'm just like, what is that person
cringing
doing?
Yeah.
And why are you doing that? And so a lot of these things, is why I think it's important. The reason I brought it up is why I think it's important to have someone who's a trainer versus going in and just watching something on YouTube and imagining what someone's doing, because it is really, really hard, I think, to work out on your own with one, even with the amount of training I have, I still have a trainer because I feel like I can't see things that they can. And this is why I find it absolutely just huge. So I want to get into what you're doing in your gym now, where it's at, so folks can get all that information in terms of the online side of things. But before we go there, I want to talk about the most important thing that I kind of feel like a lot of folks over 40 start to forget about and kind of go, oh, that's for those young guys, or, oh, that's for those young girls. Protein. Let's talk about protein for a minute and kind of all of your hacks that you found, because the biggest issue I find with a lot of folks is, one, people struggle to digest it. And of course we can talk about enzymes, but the other side of it is how to get it in and how to get to the amounts that we need when it seems like we have to, always go for protein shakes and things of that nature to get to that amount. So what are your protein hacks? Give us a scoop.
Yeah. So for protein, my overall philosophy, and everyone's got all these different philosophies, but just from the last 15 years of my life being really into this profession, everybody's different on how their body assimilates it, whether your body's trained that way or genetically, or it does matter with kind of your size as well. it's, people think that, oh, you can only assimilate 20 grams of protein or you could do 30 or whatever. It's one of those things where you just kind of play with it and see how your body's adjusting to it. I personally have seen my body, I'll take 60 grams in one hit and I get to the levels and leanness that I want. It didn't turn to fat. So obviously my body's processing it. Another thing is the source of protein. Like I said, real food is always better. And then I've noticed it's helped. You mentioned enzymes, taking digestive enzymes to help process that food. Your body will process it, but you'll process it better using a little hack like that. And then if you are going to do, it's just everyone knows it is. If you're counting protein, it is so freaking hard to hit the amount that if you go check any calculator, macro calculator, know what you're kind of shooting for. It is so hard to hit that. There's not enough time in the day to hit this. So protein shakes, that's where they come into play. I try not to do more than one if I have to two. But then you start looking at the quality of the company that you're buying from, what kind of protein it is. I'm actually allergic to whey. I've learned that in my 40s. That's a fun little fact for being over 40. Allergic to a bunch of different things, by the way, but that being like going into anaphylactic shock, scary. So I had to switch to pea protein.
Yeah.
And so checking the companies on that one. And then, there's concentrate, which is the cheap stuff. Then there's isolate, which is the little bit more expensive stuff. That's the better stuff, where it's a little bit more broken down and easier bioavailable for the person to absorb it. Then there's hydrolysate, which is real expensive, but I didn't really see much difference between the two from isolate to that one. It wasn't worth the money for me. So isolate's kind of what I recommend to folks. And then if you want whey, if you want pea, they've got different blends of everything. But just if you're over 40, you're paying this money, don't buy the good stuff. Don't buy the cheap stuff because it's so hard to keep your muscle mass on. Your body's constantly fighting unless you keep giving these environmental stress factors of working out and eating, trying to grow muscle tone. We're not supposed to be like that. We created all this stuff. Our natural genetic, set point is probably like 140 pounds or something for a guy and less for a girl. And we've done this, but it's also better for sports and functional, that kind of stuff. So, but those are kind of my things with protein. How about yourself?
I also have a serious reaction to whey now. And I think it's because of so much consumption of it and then stress on the gut with hard workouts. I think that it's common for a lot of folks who are athletic. Like I had hives head to toe. And I was like, something's not right here.
Yeah.
And now like it gets near me and I'm itching like a crazy person. So I do find that, if I really have people rotating things if they haven't had a reaction, just because you have more stress the older you are. Pea protein's kind of my go-to. I rotate between those ones too. And I haven't seen much difference between the isolate and the I can't ever say the word either.
Hydrolysate, I think.
Yeah, hydrolysate. My tongue is in my way today. But those that's kind of the same way I feel. And for a lot of people, it's finding a brand that's clean. I mean, Naked, Pea, and Truvani are kind of like my two that I tend to go through. Kachava, I will sometimes work through as well. I don't know what brands you have for your favorites. Let's throw out some favorites for people here. If you got any insights.
I do Sun Warrior protein because I'm more of kind of keto diet-ish, and that just happens to have like 1 gram of net carbs, or I think it even wipes itself out. So that way I can have a few extra scoops because, I'm trying to hit the 60 grams. And then Naked Pea protein, just the, the other one's a little bit more expensive. This one I can kind of add it up to it. And since I'm using it so often. So,
yeah.
But I think for whey, we always promote Optimum Nutrition. They're just a big company that puts a lot of money into their stuff and it's relatively cheap. And so all these other companies, I never went to the depth of exploring where they are and all that. And I just don't, trust someone unless I dive deep into them. So
no, it makes sense. It is something that you guys, listening, you want to be thinking about if you do get protein powders, know where it's coming from. And then the whole other thing is the bars. And man, it's like really high-end junk food is kind of the way I look at bars. And I know there are some that are a little bit better than others, cleaner ones. What kind of bars do you have folks gravitate towards? I know with your keto twist, do you have some that are a little bit more on your end of things or not so much?
Yeah, I kind of stay away from bars for the same reason. There's just so much stuff put in them. And if you're going to go the route of supplementing, I'd rather stay with liquid because your body will just absorb it that much faster than waiting for your body to digest it. So if you're going to go the digestive route and chew, then I'd rather go whole foods. So I always push for liquid being the best, and especially after the workout within the next like 10 to 15 minutes, because it matters how fast you get that lactic acid washed away, your cortisol levels dropped. So I always tell people, bring your protein shakes to the gym. I don't want to have you wait to go home, dilly dally, and then make it. So yeah, never mess too much with the protein bars.
It's smart. I mean, honestly, it's kind of where I'm at as well. I know a lot of people will sometimes unfortunately end up, that's like their default. And now all of a sudden we've got breakfast, lunch, and dinner bars, and it doesn't end well. It's not health food. It's
I think if you are going to do it, then just the real things you're worrying about it is, if you are worried about carbs, obviously look at that. Then just the sweeteners, hopefully it's more natural type sweeteners, or stevia or a monk fruit they use a lot nowadays, versus, sucralose, aspartame, and I forgot what the other real bad one is. But
phenylalanine, all those.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anything that like somewhat resembles fentanyl, don't do any of those.
Oh my goodness.
Any long name like that.
Yeah, if it looks like an opioid, just I like that. I think a lot of folks can appreciate, like, if it's a big long name and you're like, I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, don't put it in your mouth.
Not a good idea. I mean, let's put it this way. As we get older, our bodies do become a little bit more sensitive. And definitely with the certain foods, it does make a difference of choosing things closer to the real deal, closer to the cave. Someone told me once. I thought that was a good statement, because all this chemical stuff. I mean, I've had people trying to figure out why they can't move too far from a bathroom because of some of these sugar alcohols that are in things, and
yep.
Is what it is.
And that's the thing, is you start paying attention to your body, because certain people will have like, little gluten reactions or reactions to chemicals and all that. You should be feeling like that. So that means you need to switch what you're doing, or do a little bit more research. You should be feeling good all the time, or as best as you can. So that's been my focus for over 40, is not being hurt, feeling good with my diet, and everything you do, if it's something new, taking baby steps. Don't just jump into it.
Nice. Well said. So, all right. Where can folks find you, Brad? Where, like, in person and online, so that they've got both options here? Because I do know some people listen in California, but I don't know where they are. And let's break it down.
Unless you're close to Huntington Beach, California, that's kind of where my brick and mortar gym is. You can find me on Yelp, Evolve Gym. But for my online stuff, it's over40fitnesshacks.com. Or you can find same name on the whatever you're listening to for podcasting. And that's over 40 with a 40, not spelled out. And I do online coaching, group coaching, as well as in person. So that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years of my life.
Love it. Well, you're well versed. Definitely passed my test in terms of all the questions and the drilling. So guys, I mean, obviously I wouldn't have had him on the podcast if I didn't. But I, definitely think it's a great conversation to have with folks about this. And so I'm glad that you were able to come on, and looking forward to being on your podcast. So folks, stay tuned for that. Brad, thanks for chatting with me today.
Awesome. Thanks you so much for having me on the show.
Hey, Health Junkies, are you feeling just off? Feeling like you're aging a little bit faster than you want to, and wondering what in the world is up? Hey, I might have some answers for you and some direction. If you want to chat with me, I am offering complimentary calls right now. You can head over to Dr. spelled out JKrausend.com. Take my quiz, click on the schedule a chat, and let's talk and see if we can get you in the right direction. And if I'm able to help you, I'm going to let you know. Otherwise, I'm going to help you find what you're looking for. Head over to drjkrausend.com and check it out now. Hey, fellow health junkie. Thanks for listening to the Health Fix podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please help support me to get the word out